If someone was to ask me,
Of course, it's
what was expected of me as a man within my community,
how do you define a man?
it will come down to
Welcome back to No Ordinary Life, where ordinary people like Gavin,
Okay.
Julie, Anne, Andy,
Push that back.
April,
Okay.
Susanna,
It's really funny.
Spencer, Sarah, and B
I'm just painting pictures.
talk about their extraordinary lives.
What was expected
What was expected of me
So what was expected of me
as a man
as a man?
as a man
in the 1970s?
during my formative years?
I became a man in
I think
the 1970s.
Leave a comment below.
A man was expected to work.
I don't think my parents
all the lads always used to go around
put a lot of pressure on me
to each other's houses
to be a man.
and play on computer games,
Be the main breadwinner.
mainly football games.
I think my father felt a lot of pressure
Look after
to be a man
We'd all be talking about girls all the time.
or to be
the house and
a traditional man.
family.
His emotions weren't as
Very much as ways had been
on the surface
for a long time.
as they are now, I think.
I think
My father and I have a great relationship now.
probably a very conventional view
We talk a lot more about
in the 70s.
how we feel about things.
Maybe men now are more
My parents saw that I was
open to their feelings.
quite a sensitive person.
Back then, it still was a case that
I didn't come out as gay
men weren't terribly emotional,
to my family until I was 26.
weren't expected to
But I think my parents
show emotion, were expected to be
knew that I was different. So
not strong and silent,
the pressure to be
but certainly not be
a man
terribly expressive.
wasn't as strong. I don't feel was as strong.
And that, I think, has changed for the better.
Stay tuned.
If someone was to ask me what was expected of me as a man,
There was an awful lot of men who took advantage of that situation.
being a man is about being responsible.
How did society expect men to behave?
You had to prove yourself.
The conversation continues.
With the liberalisation of society,
I don't think that pressure, my parents put that pressure on my brothers.
I think
I think because there were so many of us, we were all so very different.
men began to get,
They were quite accepting of who we were.
the upper hand is the wrong word, but I do think, looking back, that
I was also a artist, a performer
though I think things were beginning to develop,
through high school. So in spite of my school being quite tough,
we saw with the sexual revolution,
I was never really bullied.
I think women had the worst of that, I do think that
I definitely saw in popular culture
there was an awful lot of men who took advantage of that situation.
what was expected of men.
Of course, it's how do you define a man?
We had a lot of American TV shows, so that is rife in American TV shows, or certainly was in the 90s. But I didn't really feel that pressure.
I don't think, that
It was a time where people were just experimenting, finding who they were.
what's expected of people has changed that much, has it, through the years?
When I was in my second year of university, I just brought my boyfriend along to the student pub.
It's like saying every male
And that's how I came out.
is the same,
I didn't have to talk to anyone and didn't have to tell anyone.
and that's not the case, is it?
They accepted that and we went about our drinking session. Tell us your story.
If someone was to ask me what was expected of me as a man
I don't really know what, I don't know.
within my community,
I don't think they really did.
At that time of my life,
Do you know what I mean?
how did society expect men to behave?
Sorry, but I just struggle with that one.
I think
It will come down to
Socially, in my peer group,
there's always in every society
it was expected that men would, or boys who were turning into men,
the rite of passage, I think is the term that's used.
supposed to be
It's a really funny thing because in different societies it's different.
aloof,
Some of these rites of passage are written down
didn't really
and some of them are unspoken.
care what other people thought.
And in my community, the rite of passage
They were
was loyalty.
strong.
For you to be a man, you had to have loyalty.
They were
Your mouth shut.
sometimes quite expected to be quite arrogant,
Keep your mouth shut. Yeah.
sure of themselves.
You had to defend yourself.
Men
You had to prove yourself.
who were role models
Not in aggression,
in popular culture and
but in wit
in society as a whole.
and in your ability to look after yourself and others.
Don't forget to subscribe.
It was unspoken, yeah.
In New Zealand especially, were supposed to be
You see, you didn't have to have money.
quite quiet,
You just had to have the attitude,
We used to
chose their words.
and you had to have the drive.
They
get into a bit of trouble.
You know, it was about being
Not very many of the girls did.
a man is about being responsible.
You know,
they weren't emotional.
In my community,
um,
there wasn't other things for people to hide behind.
They didn't talk about their feelings.
You couldn't just be aggressive to be manly,
like fighting,
because that's what the boys were doing.
things like that.
So you had to use your responsibility, your care for others,
Yeah,
to be manly.
sorry.
Next time.
The expectancy was always
I only had
Women weren't expected to put themselves first.
housewife.
probably 2 or 3 interviews.
Should be like,
When I was being interviewed, the gentleman said,
Supposed to stand behind the black man.
he said, well, a woman wouldn't manage it.
the perfect woman.
I said, you knew I was a woman.
And that's kind of the society that I was brought up in.
Then pop up question, what did she wear?
And he said, all right. He said, I just wanted to see what you were like because, you know, normally we don't have women apply.
No ordinary life. Thank you for watching.
Do I have faith? I have faith in people and friends. Family, but not in religion. I think it's important to have some faith, otherwise but I don't think it's important to be religious. But faith in other people and trust in other people is important.
Subscribe to keep the conversation going and don't forget to ring the bell.